And there we are. We are live and we're firing on all cylinders, and the market is getting a little bit shaky. I mean, not a whole lot's changed here. So right here, you can see Bitcoin has just hit support. And we're going to talk about that today. So welcome everybody. It's Hxro Labs live. And we are in our new time slot, 4 p.m. Eastern, right at the New York close. So, when stocks shut down for the day, the crypto degens wake up for the evening and it's time to trade. Now we got the 4-hour close. So we got lots to talk about leading into the daily close tonight. We had a weekly close last night. So really tons going on, tons to update. And it's nice to see we got Roadrunner over here on TradingView. We've got Gunny here on YouTube. And we've got kind of a shaky look to a couple altcoins that I want to talk about today. And really, no major structure changes. So if this kind of pullback, let's use, we could use Bitcoin. We need to find a low time frame here. If this kind of move makes you really nervous, you got to check your overall risk, because we're just in this violently flat kind of vibe right now, right? It hasn't really gone anywhere, but it's got lots of strong moves, and those can shake you. They can shake you out of something you were, really excited about your bullish position here, and then suddenly you got super bearish, and then you're super bullish, super bearish, and that is sort of the nature of consolidation. And you can see, the swings were gigantic early on. And they're slowly getting smaller and smaller. And eventually, today, tomorrow, next week, next month, there will be a strong move. And it'll be probably very hard to catch. We were actually just talking about that in the office. It's probably going to be really hard to catch this move. I've drawn up sort of a cute market structure scenario. But is it going to be polite like that and let us just, oh, look at that. Bullish market structure breakout. Now I'd like to long. Or is it just going to be like a $300, $400 candle? And while you're wondering if it's ever going to pull back, it just keeps going. And that could go in either direction. So it is going to be a tricky trade coming up on Bitcoin. What has not been a very tricky trade. What's up, Brad? Good to have you. What has not been a very tricky trade is altcoins lately. Let's pull up altcoin index to start, which has a nice bounce today since putting out a little update this morning. So this risk on window started up here, and that was on May 20th. We got the market structure fail in Bitcoin dominance, which told me we're likely headed lower, as the things do often work that way in the market. I don't know what this is. It's a data anomaly. It's just like, and it didn't align with any actual altcoins. So just keeping that on there so everyone knows that was not what it looks like. And then we just consolidated here. Different alts were going, different alts were, popping off. This is sort of when VET and ADA started to break out. And then this is like that next gear really kicked it up. So we had that moon rect breaking out of this. And today it looked like we might go into an accelerated move after Link really took off last night, almost 30% late at night. I was sitting here watching it live. It was pretty wild. Fun to watch. XTZ caught a bit of an echo after that. And so really, nothing here structurally has changed. And there's going to be these violent pullbacks. And I think a lot of people, because everything's just going up in alts, not everything, but, good amount. And so a lot of people will end up just being like, oh, I'm just going to buy it because, and then that quick violent shakedown kicks you right out of your position. If you don't have a plan, if you don't have a strategy, right? So this is ICX. One I was looking at, broke out of this little wedge. Not really a great wedge, more just consolidation, but more of a trend line, and I drew this on for fun because I see them all over the place. This was more of a wedge breakout, and as you can see, it worked very beautifully back in the spring. But I think take a quick look over Twitter. So we've been putting out some charts, and I think that's probably a good place to start. I'm going to focus on today. If you have any charts, ideas, things you want to talk about, throw them up in the chats over here. And I'll be happy to go over stuff with you, chart some things. In fact, each time we've done this stream, this is our fourth. We did 3 last week. It's always somebody in the audience who ends up with some of the best ideas we get. Some really nice charts came up in the last live stream, like, for example, singles. Check out singles. Really sweet trade setup. Doesn't mean it's going to play out the way we like, but I mean, this came from Paul J last week. He said, hey, check out singles. So we put it up on the screen. And as you can see, really nice bullish divergence. Actually, it was on the daily. Even stronger. So it's having a little bit of trouble today getting out of this range, but I mean, this is everything I look for in a setup, and if it just has to hit, what, 55, 60% of the time. So you've got the bullish divergence working, confirms right here on the flip bull. So the lower low in price, higher low in MACD, oversold, something that's usually something you kind of want to lean into the buys. The OBV had actually just confirmed bullish structure as well. And it was right down here in the RLZ, right off the 786. And then it had that cute little breakout. So here's your retest. I mean, a brilliant, brilliant chart. And again, this can go wrong 40% of the time. But when it goes right, if you measure up that risk, even off this breakout here. Oh yeah, that calculator, sure. So here's a buddy of mine. Goes by Casper. He's in the chat here sometimes. Last week, actually, he was at all three. Should message him, so tell him to hop in. And he made this. This is his little widget he made. And it's beautiful. I can go over how I use it here. You can kind of see an example. So let's do that. Let's say for the ETH short, oh, a little bit. This one stings a little. So we had the short this week. Bearish divergence, bearish market structure out of the short RLZ. Excuse me, my eyes are kicking up a little bit here. Allergy central. Short RLZ dumped down, and that's really the signal for me because it's hard to catch these. So I like to catch the throwback. And so you draw up this short RLZ off that move down and then hunt this for asks. And as you can see, it absolutely smacked. But yesterday it went up, wicked, hit my first ask, and then dumped. And it really didn't follow through. And then the 4 hour last night, you can see here, closed. So we kind of had a bullish market structure, or excuse me, bullish divergence working. Then it confirmed the structure. Then Chainlink popped 30%. The buy signal fired on the ribbon. Where's the ribbon? I had the ribbon up here. Yeah, this came in. And I just sat there. I was like, you know what? I don't know. Bullish structure right in my short's face. Had a chance to crap out, didn't. And I just thought, well, technically that's invalidated regardless. But then adding in some of the bullishness I was seeing in some other pairs, it was a close for me. I just closed it. And obviously, my next ask hit today, or would have, and we crapped out. So we'll see. We're still in range. Not a whole lot's changed, but obviously, that's the trader's life. It's part of the game. You got to manage your risk, and of course, in a month, if I never end up finding another short setup and we end up retracing right down to the low hundreds, I'll look back at that day and try to think of a reason why I could have kept it open. But the bottom line is my plan says that once you get bullish, like once you're filled and then you get bullish market structure going against you and you're still in profit, it's like just close it, look for the next one. So part of being a trader is dealing with when your setups don't work, because they're not going to work all the time. In this case it's working perfectly, but part of my plan was to have that close. It's one of my rules, so maybe I need to look at that rule if that keeps happening. For now it hasn't. ETH BTC, let's zoom out to the 3-day. We've got this old chart here in the high time frames. It just looks good. There's really no two ways about it. You've got the support level, historical support resistance. Get a full screen here. Historical support resistance. And another bullish market structure. And you can also see this MACD bull div came in to kind of mark that bottom. Again, just potential, right? Because that's just the divergence. And then you want to see that structure, which we did get. And then we just spent some time consolidating. And for 36 days, we just hung out right here after breaking out of that pennant. So let's zoom in. I mean, this is 3-day chart, so I mean that's basically just over a month, and then broke out. I'm a little surprised that we didn't get a stronger continuation yet, but then the market is never really in a rush to do what you think it will, especially with the majors. If it breaks up, I'd like to think it'll break up pretty fast, pretty aggressively, but for now, it's just hanging out there. Again, like everything else today, took a little bit of a hit on what might have been based on the news, might have just been any other random thing that we're going to hear about tomorrow, or just simply the way the market wanted to move today. There doesn't always have to be a story, although as humans we like to paint a narrative, right? SPX close. Yeah, let's take a look at that close on the SPX. So you can see here, and that's part of actually why we picked this time slot, because the trading day ends. So for the stock guys, that can also have some implications for crypto as well, obviously. There's a lot of correlations going on these days. In fact, let's look at that. I've got a cool little US 30 Bitcoin chart that I want to pull up. So yeah, not great. We swept this high. We're in the short RLZ. SPX is not really something I trade, so I don't want to have too much commentary, but I mean it's definitely a slam down to close the day. The hourly was not too happy after hanging out up here for a couple hours. So, I don't see any high time frame bearish market structure yet. I think that would be a bit premature. The last real structure we had on the 4-hour was this bullish structure that came in. Higher low, higher high. So, we're just tagging that level. Could chop up around here for a little while. It's really like these 3,000 levels that are going to kind of announce a larger move or, larger structure break. But again, I think today we should really be focusing on altcoins, because if this is just another day of chop without any significant pivot coming into the market, for example, these are the big levels, right? The breakdown below this trend, it's the big break up above here. As we get closer and closer to the apex, that's where I would be looking to cut back on some of my altcoin exposure, because when Bitcoin moves fast, when it moves in a volatile way, there's a lot of uncertainty enters the market, especially if it moves, to the downside. Obviously, there's that doomsday uncertainty that a lot of people are still dealing with after our 2-year bear market. But there's also, even when it goes to the upside, right? Bitcoin is king, and the maximalists come out in full force, and the altcoins just basically on algos just start to dump everywhere and make you wish you never bought those altcoins. Dominance rises. So the main thing I'm watching for my altcoins is the market structure on the dominance chart. If it gets bullish, then we're going to have a new risk window. It's going to be risk off. And that'll be bullish market structure going the other way, and that'll just be, okay, risk off, which means either not trading alts, definitely not holding them blindly for me personally, but not necessarily just completely avoiding trading them, but taking smaller risks on them, not going all in, not selling the house, not taking my shot, so to speak. There is a time to go risk off, and there's a time to go risk on, and so that's how I measure that with this old beauty. And I think I'm going to add a new phase, because I noticed this. Oop, that's attached. I noticed we basically just have two phases, moon and rect. I want to explain to you guys 200 EMA daily on, yeah. So Boss01 saying I could see Bitcoin testing the 200 EMA on the daily. Let's take a look at that. Slap on a little EMA. Actually, I've already got one on. Let's just change it up. Ooh, yeah. That would align with the 786 here off this range. And 8600, which is a number I see often as sort of the next step down if we do sort of break the 9K. I mean, I think the big level, obviously everyone's watching, is that 7K, but we're not going to go straight there, most likely. Nobody really knows, right? I would never claim to know where the market's headed, but I would say it's unlikely that we just have a nice 2K candle unless there's some very big catalyst or item that comes up. So yeah, wouldn't be out of the question at all to tag this 200 EMA. In fact, that's a pretty sweet little next move target if we break down here. And I think each day we rest on 92, it looks a little heavier, doesn't it? We're just breaking away from it, slamming back into it, and now it's just been stuck right here. We are on the upper half of the Bollinger Bands for our consolidation above the 20, so arguably on the more bullish bias, but that can change in a heartbeat. We're actually resting right on it, and the bands are squeezing. Look at this. So they're tight right now. So maybe expect a little volatility. And what does that mean for altcoins? What does that mean for our favorite bags? Anybody here got any trades they're in, any charts they want to see? Because I got a few, and I'm happy to pull up the charts I've been watching. UBT is one that I'm excited about, mostly just because I don't really trade elsewhere, off of my main exchanges, and this one's just a little off the radar. It's a really sweet looking chart, if I do say so myself. It's not my creation. I created this one as a copy from Pascal. Don't know if he's in here today. Yeah, we'll check out Tezos for sure. But my buddy put this together, and as you can see, with this fib extension here, came right up into this reload zone up here. Also sometimes referred to as the parking garage, and it just pulled right back. And so taking that same concept for the next leg, if there is one, you can measure from this move to this move and extend that up here. And yeah, I mean, that's a couple 100% versus USD. So last week we were on the stream talking, we were sliding down. We actually tapped right off the sweet spot here, the 702, and then broke out yesterday. So the close here, to me, like, that's your confirmed higher high. So you got your low, your high, your higher low, your higher high. And now it's a matter of, well, how do I get in safely in a way that I can measure my risk? And this is where trading can be very challenging. So different people approach it differently. You could totally do this, but you're looking at a 27%, drawdown. And let's say you're just going to play it a little conservative, take it to the 1618. Just a little conservative. It's 120%, but it's the low end of the parking garage up here. That's a 4.5 RR, cool, but it's 27% drawdown. So real quick for fun, 36.3. Let's try this risk calculator. 0.363. And if that's our entry, and our drawdown would be 2669. And let's say we want to risk 1% of our account. And let's say we have a $10,000 account. We're not trading on leverage. Okay. So that means we can take a $377 position. Or, we can buy 0.04 Bitcoin worth. Okay, but let's do it another way. This is typically how I would do these things. Because this is a higher high. Is that really the time during a trend, if it's the beginning of an uptrend, that I want to be buying? Buy the highs, sell the lows? No. I want to buy that low. So just say it does stop here. Then I want to be hunting down in this RLZ. Or in a more aggressive market, I don't have my templates because this is a TradingView widget. So let's just pull it up real quick. 382. So on a more aggressive market, I might just snag the 382, which actually does align nicely with this parabola. So, that's your higher low potentially. And if you can zoom in and even catch some bullish divergence as it slides into that, get a new little structure, that's a whole sort of fractal, like zooming in. There's layers to these things, right? And in that case, let's just say it was a 382, same invalidation. Could be below support here, even stronger, but frankly, if this low breaks, I don't really like this trade. So now we're 36.3 and 27.5. Let's try that. 27.5, 36.3. No, shouldn't be that. We're 32.8, for example. Same risk, same portfolio size, larger position, about 33% larger. right? So you're able to maintain the same amount of risk but have a larger position, higher potential upside, the same potential drawdown, right? So and that's where that patience thing comes in, and then you have to be willing to let this go if it does just take off, and that's the hard part of trading. That's why you say date it, don't marry it. All right, we're going to pull up Cardano after we check out Tezos and ENG. Absolutely. Okay, guys, let's do this. So that's my thoughts on UBT. I think this does look really bullish. It's exciting. I'm not racing to buy the high, but I will track it. Again, this is just my thoughts on it. I want you guys to ideally, do your own thing. Love generating ideas on here, but the idea of advising people financially and all that, no, not doing that. And it freaks me out when I say something like this is bullish, and then 6 months later somebody calls like, oh, I lost everything. I'm like, what did you do? Don't do that. So be safe, play from a position of strength, and this is how I do that, by chasing it up with the fib and then catching that 382. Or if the market really squeaks out, you can catch the real down here, and then your real nice tight validation. So let's close up UBT for now, and we'll pull up some alts. We've got Tezos, I saw first. And I actually have a chart on this as well from last night, so let's pull it up. Not too shocked to see this knockback. This seemed like it was riding on Link's coattails last night, and we can see today, very quickly, because I know we're going to look at this one, but just to take a very quick look, Link did get knocked back. And if that was sort of the big catalyst, everyone's like, XTZ likes to move with Link sometimes. Link blew up. And you can see this trend line from the highs here. These are candle body highs, not the wicks. We just closed right below that after smacking through this parking garage here. So if you're a parking garage trader, if you like to close out on 2.0s, what a nice close around 90K sats. But with this pullback, which seems totally reasonable given the 30% spike, XTZ also got the pullback. And same thing, talking about it last night. Well, kind of talking about it this morning, but posting about it last night. This is a breakout, right? So it's not exactly like a chase, because, rare that they just run like crazy unless it's a quick trade, scalping or whatever. But the bulls woke up for sure. Bullish divergence confirmed. So there's some facts here that we can't ignore. Flip this SR level, hold support, chop city, and what we really want to close this daily above here and ultimately put in some kind of continuation structure, because this is a short RLZ, which for me is sort of a no-go zone when it comes to taking longs, is anything beyond like a scalp, right? So you take this high, then this low down here, you stretch that out. Price, once it trades back up into here, ultimately that's where I'd be thinking shorts as far as location goes. But I'm not shorting this after breaking through this, flipping this with volume. The bulls clearly woke up here, so I'm not just like blindly shorting. I'm just saying it's hard for me to take a long, but it looks bullish. So that's XTZ. Hope that helps, Peter. Do you have any other questions about that? Ultimately, it's got to get through some resistance here at the short RLZ kind of levels. And those aren't usually easy because it's just like me, there's a lot of people parked up here looking for shorts. So you got to push through all that. And if it does break out to new highs, we've got a nice parking garage here drawn from this range, right? So you get the low, dragged up to the high. A lot better if you have the magnet tool on for that. So it's perfect and clean and crispy. And so that does put it around $5 if a few things happen first. For now, it's step one, breakout on volume, divergence, OBV trending higher. Actually just made a new high today. So unbalanced volume's looking strong. So it's got all the markers for bull. This is the real test. Does it support at the breakout point or does it fail? So get your popcorn ready. All right. Let's see. California to close indoor restaurants, movie theaters, bars. The case for the drop on index. Yeah, I know. So Boss here pointed out California to close indoor restaurants, movie theaters, and bars statewide as coronavirus cases rise. So we've got some more bearish news I don't think it's a secret that the States is in a bit of trouble with their numbers. I mean, we're seeing the numbers, and so assuming you believe the data, if we crap out, if the markets take a hit, right, if the SPX rolls over, it's going to look so obvious, is it not? I mean, even in a technical level, again, not saying like, I know it's going to happen, but like on a technical level, when this happened in March, all I could think is like, well, when it gets up into this short RLZ, I'll be thinking about shorts because, global pandemic, what is it? How many years bull market we've been in now? Like, so this is the level for me, this area that I'm thinking, let's be thinking about shorts. Certainly not, location wise, it's just thinking about how to hedge, how to get out of some of that exposure, get into some cash, whatever, puts, I don't know, however you want to skin it. So if it does M out here and just come down and, whatever, we go into a recession, like, is anyone going to be shocked? I mean, there's a lot of unemployment, there's a lot of fundamentals, and I think if anything, people are more shocked that they're like, what is going on? How's the NASDAQ making new highs in the face of all this? So not surprised, boss, to see that kind of bad news coming out, and then if, the market would react. So no shortage of reasons to go with price action that we see to the downside. I'd be kind of surprised if this thing ran to all new highs in a way, as far as just like straightforward fundamental analysis goes, but there's also a lot of shenanigans going on with money printing and all that, which frankly is beyond my knowledge. So any suggestions on where to get full tool set education on TradingView? There's a ton of strategies, but I can't find anything that would show me how to use like you are. August Brandt. Yeah, you know what? There's a lot of guys in here, I believe, right now that could help you out with that. This is on the TradingView. But you know what? You can check out TRI. That's where I learned all this stuff. It's a really good school program. Not here to advertise it or anything, but never hurts to give them a shout out. It's a really solid educational program, rationalinvestor.com. Definitely, I liked it. And as you can see, it helped me learn a lot of this stuff. It's actually where I got this chart. Somebody there put it out. So hope that helps. Let's take a look over at ENG. ENG. Now before we go over there, ADHD to the max kicking in. Before we go over there, I want to take a quick look at altcoin market cap because we are at a very pivotal level. And as you can see, I mean, this trend line didn't really exist until we hit this. So I'm not going to call that a test. That was the creation of the trend line. This was a test, okay, in February. And you could have been fooled into thinking we had broken the trend line. But in fact, what you really need to see to break a trend line, to avoid getting sucked into traps like this, is you want to see market structure on the other side of the trend line. Say, okay, we've moved through the trend and we're still bullish. Okay, so a lot of times you get up through these trend lines and it's just chop, 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 and then it just craps out and it was all a trap, right? You close your shorts or you open some longs, like whatever it was, and then you find out that the trend line is there all along. So that's what we're looking for here. And my goodness, it would be crazy good. It would be very bullish, but we're actually emming out, which is not ideal. So right now, what we want to see is a break higher, okay? But what we end up seeing right now, looking a little iffy. So let's see. I mean, that changed literally just today, obviously, with the very more recent dumping action. This morning, looked like we were going to push higher, in which case we would have been setting up. So this is just kind of watch and see, popcorn zone, as I would call it. It's going to be interesting, and I wouldn't be shocked if it rolls over here. Not at all. And frankly, I wouldn't even, I'd be a little disappointed, patience-wise. I don't think it would, it's certainly not where I'm like, oh, it's the end, but it would just be a delay to what I think is inevitable. So Bitcoin dominance, still trending down for now. It's kind of at support on this view. And this is the altcoin market cap. Hopefully going to break this resistance here. So let's see. Let's go check out ENG. Believe I have a chart on that. Might be on the ETH pair. Well, we got the Short RLZ. So I mean, again, just if you haven't figured out these fibs yet, feel free to borrow my settings. I don't mind at all. I basically dark out all these ones for this particular fib template. I don't need them. I just want to know about, well, the 618 is an important level, but if you fill this with color, it goes above, and I don't want to trade above. I only like to trade inside of this, so I keep it grayed out. I think that's then a third, yeah. And so I like the 702, 786, and then I keep the 88.6 on there because it gets a lot of play. And actually, when I first started using this, affectionately known as the RLZ, when I first started using this, I used to like treat the below 786 as invalidation. But what I've learned is a lot of times price will come in and play off that level and then reverse. So I no longer put any stops in the zone. In fact, if anything, I like to put entries in there and put my stops below the 7 or the 88.6 to get a really tight RR here, which of course if you break to the upside gives you a 6 setup. So for Ing, I know Messiah, one of our other analysts, loves Ing right now. He is very bullish on it. Let's zoom out to the daily. Obviously, like every other altcoin, it's got a very similar setup. It did break its range low, sort of its high time frame lows here. So tried to hold on to those last fall and broke up, but eventually broke down. I actually remember this. I think this was to do some kind of token swap, or there's some legal issue with their token, and I'd have to look it up to get the exact details. But basically, there was some concerns that the ENG token would be rendered useless, and that there would be no way, something to do with the SEC or some fines or something. But they seem to have gotten past that. But again, I don't know all the details on the fundamental side. But we came in, put in bullish. Yeah, you can see the bullish divergence working. This basically happened across the whole alt market, so it's almost not even worth mentioning on each chart. But just like everything else, with the lower lows in price, the higher lows in MACD, and this sell volume is a little concerning. The fact that it went to new lows and there was still a lot of sellers lined up to sell, it's not ideal. And on the daily, the fact that there is this large sell, I mean, from this view, purely based on volume analysis, you can see that the biggest volume days are selling days. So that's not ideal generally. But what did we get? We got confirmation of bullish market structure. So we had a low, we had a higher low. We had to break this level to make a higher high, and we did. And so when that happens, typically what I'll do is track it and follow up with one of these, and then be looking to buy in here. Because often when you get that kind of structure, you end up with an opportunity to grab the RLZ after. And I'll show you a really cool example of that after with Atom. We've been tracking that for a month, and it's worked out too perfectly. It's been very exciting. So yeah, overall, this is definitely in a decent location to be thinking about taking some shots here to the long side. If it breaks 88.6, I'd be pretty stay off, I'd be hands off after that point. But let's just say, market buy. Like, I wouldn't recommend that I'm not making specific recommendations. But I mean, it doesn't take much to get to that 3RR, but then you're still looking at a huge drawdown from here for me. And this is the key to a trade, is having good invalidation levels. Not like, okay, well, I'll just get out if it goes to here because I don't want to lose more than 12%. Well, okay, but then price, and it'll happen if you track your trades, you'll see this a lot. It could easily just stop you out and go on. Was the long situation invalidated by the move to here? Not really. Still technically a higher low than here. So you need invalidations that are actually invalidating the thing that you think is going to happen, whatever your setup says. In this case, I mean, you could technically use this low. It's a pretty low, long wick. It's the 786. I know I just said I don't really play stops here anymore, but in this case, you could argue that. And that's if you trade the way that's how I think about it. There's this level here that has yet to be retaken, right? So you could also be waiting for that. I know a lot of traders, for sure, some buddies of mine would be like, nope, I'm not trading this until it gets back inside this range, back above this level. Otherwise, it's just fluttering, not too sure of itself. And let's just say it does that well, right? And then you end up with really nice new invalidation. You don't have to worry about stop losses here. So trader like that could be trying to trade that retest and then find some kind of little pivot low here to hide behind. Maybe even just right there. So you end up with 17% drawdown. So like we talked about on the calculator, you end up with a much larger position, aka more potential upside, the same potential downside. So I hope that helps with Ing. I actually was looking at it on the Ethereum chart, trying to find a nice tight setup because, I don't know, didn't look at it historically, but in general between the two pairs, I found that this one had some invalidations I liked a little better. So, yeah, I mean, the W didn't quite confirm here the way I would have liked, but we did, it's still a decent looking chart. And I like Messiah. I respect his analysis. He was all over OMG earlier this year before it rallied. He was all over Ren. I think he still is. I'm not sure what he's doing with it, but so when he says ENG, I'm like, okay, he sees something. And so I start looking, and I actually see something that fits mine as well. This bullish market structure here, confirmed. Or bullish divergence, that is. So yeah, I like ENG. I actually traded a little ETH for it here, and we'll see how that goes. But as I was just saying, I don't typically like to use stop losses here. I mean, look at this. I might have to check myself before I wreck myself. Because this is basically what I said I just don't do. It's amazing when you do live streams and talk and share and teach, essentially, how many things you learn. I've learned that over time. You start putting things out loud. And this is why journal writing is so important. Have a trade journal. Write in it. Write to yourself. Reread what you wrote. Review your trades. Review your setups. Check your errors. Because that process is basically what I'm doing here. It's like reflecting on sort of what I'm doing. And as I say it, I'm like, oh, interesting. I just contradicted myself. So really can't stress that enough how important that is. Yeah, so Boss said, I feel like alts will start to sell for BTC like Link and BTC pushing Bitcoin and Ethereum price up, but I don't know. Yeah, I think Bitcoin needs to break structure before we see any real wild selling in alts. Sort of like, but you can feel it. I feel it each day getting a little closer, right? It's that sort of you wake up each morning like, is this the day that Bitcoin's going to wreck the party? And I think we all have that sort of PTSD over the last couple of years where it all seems too good to be true. And Bitcoin just makes these violent moves. But it's important, and this is why I like this chart. This is why I work from here. Because if Bitcoin makes a move and whatever, it can still just be bearish versus alts on the dominance chart. And so that makes it a lot easier to stick in positions or to add on dips or whatever if it's in this risk on window. So I really love this distinction. And we have it up on our ideas page on TradingView if you guys ever want to see it or you're interested. It's pretty sweet. Got to say so myself. I was going to add a new phase. So we've got sort of like risk on, and then when you're in a risk on window and you get new bearish structure, this becomes that moon phase. So there's sort of like bearish phase, wrecked phase, bullish phase, moon phase, and having some rules around that. So it's like, okay, if I'm risk off, I'm not taking any trades. Or if it's risk off, my max risk on a position can be 0.25% for alts because they get chopped all the time in risk off. So you don't want to be taking your shots. And then it's like, okay, if I'm in risk on, phase one hasn't gotten the second breakdown yet. So like right here, we're in phase one, so to speak. Hadn't really accelerated. So in this kind of a zone, this kind of a zone, this kind of a zone, taking smaller shots like 1%, 1.5%, 2%. And then in these sort of rip phases, that would be like called the moon phase, sort of a secondary breakdown within a risk window. That's when you can get real juicy, getting into that 3% kind of risk per trade. Because you also have to remember it's all correlated. So if you have 5 or 6 alt positions and they're all 3% risk, you're really setting yourself up for some heavy drawdowns if things do turn around. So let's take a look at this setup here. Was there any ADA? Oh yeah, okay. Let's check out ADA before I switch gears here, because I actually had a little trade set up there that fired this week. I want to talk about ADA. Let's go to the BTC pair, because I know that's a chart I already have drawn up. I mean, this one's really strong. They have something coming up. Maybe you know what it is. August Brandt. Let me know if you know. Let me know if you know what's coming up for ADA. I've got it in this other channel here. I can take a quick look. Who was I talking to? Pascal. Spicy P. Where are you? So I've got a short list for sort of July catalysts, and I know ADA was on there. It's just a little label, so I don't have all the details on it, but hard to find things when you're live. Ooh. Yeah, well, there was a catalyst coming up for ADA later in July. I mean, I guess you can really just look at, yeah, womp womp. It's not there. Well, let's just look at the chart because it is really strong right now. We got big breakout volume. I mean, it is overbought, so generally as a rule in my trading plan, I cannot take a long when something is embedded, right? The Willy, sort of why it was created. This EMA, once it gets up above overbought, it's like, it's not just a spike into overbought, like this average is overbought. And that's just a signal to say, okay. And it can stay up here for weeks and months, and yes, there could be a huge rally, and I'll miss it because of that rule. But overall, long term, it's going to save me a lot of money to stay out of overbought markets as far as finding entries. But let's look at this. It doesn't have any working divergence, really. Right? It's making higher highs in the MACD, so this is an increasing momentum. So as price goes up higher, momentum's still making highs, so there's no real concerns there. So this is more for someone like if I was in a position right now, I'd probably hold on to it. OBV's trending higher. Not a new all-time high, but that's okay. What else do we got here? I mean, we're in the parking garage. We're tapping the sweet spot on the short RLZ, this larger move. So again, not a location I can long from. Pump chaser would be like, it actually did get the tag. This has been pretty sweet. Okay, so let's look at this fib. This is the pump chaser fib that I kind of just toying with that idea as a tool. So check this out. If you missed the breakout, or if you're just waiting for the breakout, because sitting in these positions has a lot of opportunity cost. So I know some traders, they like to play the breakout. And so once this breaks out, you draw up this fib, follow it up, follow it up, follow it up. Okay, it peaked here, which makes sense because that's old. Was at the time resistance, right? When it tagged this would have been red box for resistance. And then drawing up that fib, look at it, you get this sweet sort of 382.5 zone. And if you use that for invalidation as a long, you can get a nice tight RR trade setup going. And then obviously, right? So that's, I call it the pump chase fib. And on this rally, it worked perfectly if you missed wave one. And now we've got new structure here, sort of a new level. So I would even start this next phase from the next one. And you can use this wick. I think it's a little bit long for me. I might even just use like the candle or like a more reasonable wick. And in that case, pump chase fib tagged again. But easy to do that in hindsight. If you have rules like always wicks or always candles, it's best to stick with those. Typically, when I have long, sort of anomalous wicks like this, I'll look for something a little more telling, like candle. And sometimes to get rid of the noise, you can use a line chart for that exact reason. So the line chart, price never moved down here as far as that's concerned. So in that case, didn't even tag the 382 technically in that case. So playing with all these different tools, I mean, I love TradingView for that reason. There's so much you can do, so much customization. They keep adding stuff. So 382 fib, those are kind of the tools that I've been using lately. Yeah, so what is the Willy? Look at XPX. Yeah, we took a look at the SXP altcoin. No, Sonos. We're going to do that in a sec. Let's take a look at SXP. I'm not actually too familiar with that coin. I definitely don't have a pre-made chart, but maybe we'll drop a naked one. So the Willy is a momentum indicator. It's created by a guy named Brian Beamish. It's actually my trade mentor. Great dude. And he created this indicator, basically just an oscillator similar to an RSI. I couldn't tell you the exact algos and math that go into it and how it might be similar or different to an RSI, but think of it the same way. Oversold, overbought, oversold, overbought. And you can find structure in it too. So you can read structure basically the same way that you would something else, say for reversal or whatever. But he created it. Brian, if you ever watch this, I'm sorry if I butcher why, but he was a broker and he created it to help clients understand when not to buy markets, because he would obviously, you get phone calls saying, I want to buy. And you look and sure enough, it's public mania overbought. Or you have people calling saying, oh, I want to sell. And he's like, for sure, it's like a depressed market. So he created this tool to kind of help people stay out of trouble. And because this indicator, this particular one, I think it's public. It's called the Willy Mid TRI 2113. You can look that up. I'm pretty sure that's public. Let's look. I love this tool. Is it Willy Mid? Maybe it's not public. I thought it is. Let's see. Still might be. Yeah, okay. Williams, 13%. There you go. So it's there. It's public. It's free. It's open. I think you can even use this one, depending on... there's a few of them. But it's that same idea, right? So having rules around, okay, well, it's overbought. I'm not allowed to buy it. It's out of my trading plan. And if you have a rule like that, yeah, you'll miss it once in a while. If this thing just decides to rip higher, I'll miss it. But like I said, it's in the long game, in the long run. I'll save a lot of money not chasing these things. Because as we've seen today, there's a lot of things. Like we saw ENG real quick, and then we're going to check out SXP. But like ENG is not overbought. It's sitting near its RLZ, right? So even in all this altcoin mania right now, there's some decent looking charts, so you don't have to buy overbought ones. Although it's easy to, right? You look at leaderboards, you look at some, big accounts, sometimes always talking about the ones that are flying, right? So you want to just be careful that you're staying safe. Like VET is the talk of the town, but it's actually not overbought. That's crazy. It's not stupidly overbought right now. How is that possible? WTC broke out. Okay, so we're going to take out SXP. So is this new? Yeah, this is the new one that just went on Synthetics, I think it is. So Brad, I hope that answers your question as far as the Willy goes. It's my best sort of quick rundown on that. SXP. Yeah, so this is a new one. Looks like it just broke up today. Not a lot of chart history. So I get a little nervous trading these because they just, it's kind of new. You want 100 days, you want 200 days to really get a clear sign that your TA makes sense. This thing could do whatever it wants. So I don't have a rule about that, but I just generally will stay away from brand new things. Unless I know about the fundamentals and I'm like, okay, pre-sale was here, ICO was there, I know the tokenomics, I understand the lockups, and this thing's, 500K market cap, and it's just like this other one that's 75 million or whatever. There's reasons why I might get into a coin when it just launched or it's a little early, but generally speaking, makes me a little nervous. There's just not enough history there. And whatever history you do have is less strong. You can see some structure working up. Certainly got a little break up today. But again, where's its range? Where's its history, right? So it's tricky to really get a read on this thing. So, yeah, okay. So this is their swipe card. Okay, Qcoin. Let's check out Qcoin. Thank you for that heads up. Oh, beautiful. Okay, now we're cooking with grease. Oh yeah, swipe. I did hear. Now it's all coming back to me. Heard something about that. Okay. Oh, this is a big deal then. Good shout, Sonos. Because let's see, like, what do we got? Well, we've got buyers stepping in. So the first thing I look at in a chart like this, after I look at the location, high or low, clearly low. I think most things in the market right now, generally, we're in the lower end of ranges. We've got big buy volume stepping in, which is a big one for me because there's a lot of coins with that. And so why would I don't want to get into coins where there's no interest. So this is likely, I don't know exactly when that news came out, but is this like insider buy and then this is the real news buy? It's interesting that it hasn't gone further based on sort of these first, like a lot of the high up wicks. Who's selling into that if it's that big of a news driven thing? But let's see. So I would start maybe by thinking about what's our overall trend is down. Okay, we moved through it. We've just confirmed a W on the other side. Downtrend is officially broken. EMAs are bullish on the daily. So yeah, it's a good looking chart. And so I guess the question is, based on one's trading plan, how do they plan to get in? We're already below the pump chasers. Hasn't really gone too far. Are we in the RLZ? We are. Just smacked off the sweet spot. So not a terrible entry. Don't love that. But you get that nice tight RR. Man, what a sweet spot tag. Taking it to lows is only 18%. Not the full lows, but like these sort of pivot lows. They sometimes get swept, but in this market, if it's not running and bullish and it's going to dribble and bleed into that, as not too interested. And yeah, what do we got? Maybe a little resistance up here from an old pivot. Roughly where that was. Yeah, I could see a decent little trade setting up here. For sure. SXP. And who knows how, I'd really personally, I'd want to look into a bit of the coin, perhaps finding out how bullish is this swipe card, how widespread is it, but if it's a Binance, they're one card they're going to use for everything. That's pretty sweet. And Binance is invested in it, which is not nothing, right? They're going to protect their baby. Good publicity when things you touch do well. So who knows? But good shout, Sonos. I like that chart. And I love this volume, right? Often at the starts of rallies, you'll go back and you'll be like, oh man, the volume really telegraphed that breakout. So we're coming to the end of our hour, guys. I just want to give a final shout to anyone who wants a specific, maybe a coin or a chart or a question, so we can get some, get some real value in here before we go. I think I'll be watching, I guess. So my final thoughts, unless there's anyone here has any questions, my final thoughts is sort of like, okay, so what am I looking for? What am I waiting on? I'm really keen to see what ETH BTC does. I don't want to see it close back down below here. We spent 36 days in this consolidation and broke out, so it should not come back if it's bullish. Obviously, there's way more invalidation way down here, but that's a pretty big move down, and that could take a while, and in all that time, alts could be, unloading. So I think I'll be using this. I've got a little alert there for less than, and that's sort of my, not invalidation, like sell everything, run, but that's definitely an area where I'm going to start reconsidering my positions and looking into things. And then, of course, a break above, very bullish, very, very bullish, because you can see here on the zoom out. Quick, okay. Can you see here on the zoom out? What are we at the top of the range or are we at the bottom of the range? What do you think? Room for some upside? I think so. So we'll see if that upside comes now or later. I think it's inevitable that this will catch a bid. But again, this is versus BTC, so who knows? That's a bit more of a yo-yo game than just like straight up USD valuations. Last items. I mean, Bitcoin is just parked here. It's torture, isn't it? I think a lot of people are just getting fed up with it. They're like, you know what? Call me when you're going to do something. I think that's a missed opportunity. There's so much going on in altcoin land. Real quick scan, Cody's been breaking up, quietly moving along. Walton chain just kind of broke out. And I like the idea of that sort of following the coattails of VET, which we saw here. Right, VET did really well this year. Another supply distribution kind of blockchain is right here, and it just broke out. Saw, maybe tagging this pump chaser today. Don't mind that. What else we got? We've got Wabi, another supply chain. An old setup there. Tag the 618 here. Could continue. RVN broke up today. It's a little salty this morning. It was actually like 7 a.m. and I was looking at this. I said to my buddies, like, I kind of want to margin long RVN. Right out of this, structure here confirmed. And then, 3 hours later, I get back and I'm like, oh, oops, it broke up. But keeping an eye on that because it did just drew this up and it, tagged that. So could be this is the coming out party. You can see the volume came in really nicely. So this is one where I might even just have an even, get this guy going. See if I can catch that. Coming back down. Looks like it already almost tagged it. So if that is a breakout and we're about to see the Raven fly, now I want to get in from a position of strength. I don't want to be buying here and have to worry about my downside and have a tiny little position to maintain risk. I want to get in maybe, somewhere around close to an invalidation, which is likely at this point is that pivot low. So if that's my invalidation, I've got to find somewhere as close to that as possible that I can get the highest RR. And I'm not looking to hold a bag, so if I was trying to hold it all the way up here, then anything really down here is probably not bad. But I just want to trade it maybe up to this short RLZ up here or something. It's like a 2x. Yeah, no. If you're not a crypto guy, bearish bulls, probably not for you, but appreciate you stopping by. Good to see you too. AST at a glance. Let's take a look. Air swap token. Haven't traded it, but I did notice that it was breaking out the other day. Don't have a chart drawn up on it, as you can see. So we've got a breakout, retest, continuation, and wouldn't you know it, there you go. You've got, the pump chaser VIP kind of came in. I bet that's pretty close to a 618. It actually looks like a slight front run. Yeah, just front run the 618 by like an inch. And it's getting continuation. Oh, we got bearish divergence coming in though, so heads up to any excited bulls that are maybe not in yet and are trying to get in. Maybe just no need to rush just yet because we made some higher highs, and each time we make a higher high, it's actually kind of like a bit of a double divergence. Actually, is that? No. So we got a slightly higher high between these two. So just a good old regular bearish divergence. As the MACD makes lower highs and this makes higher highs. So momentum is slowing. It's not saying I'm a short, but it's saying maybe not a long anymore. So what would that look like? Well, I'd want to see, for me at this point, I don't have any real reason that I'd want to get into AST. Clear invalidation if I lost this level. But, could very easily just continue on its way. It's just kind of in an awkward position to be taking any new positions on. It's not quite a short. It's well past its long. So I hope that makes a little bit of sense, Sonos. There's a lot of this stuff that's in no man's land right now because it's been rallying. So it is hard to, it's hard to get in at this point for a lot of them. But there's still some really sweet treats out there. Saw a couple of them today. I think ENG's in a decent location. We get some more continuation. But, fair warning, the closer we get to the end of this consolidation, even if it's not this pennant and it just chops through it, bottom line is Bitcoin will not be dormant forever. And so it feels like the closer the longer we go, the higher risk alts become. Not only because they're going up, so you're taking higher risk in getting in, but the harder they'll fall and you get shaky fingers like we saw today. I mean, we didn't even lose any key levels here or any levels at all. and we got some pukes in alts. So I think a lot of people are watching Link. Let's keep eyes on here. Would be watching for divergence. Would be watching for bearish market structure. Actually, want to check in on Ren. We got it wrapped, don't we? Yeah, 502. Okay. So I hope you guys enjoyed the show today. And we'll be in the trading pit on Telegram. So I can actually, it's in the description. So check out the description of the link. And hopefully we'll see you there. You can hop in. There's lots of other traders there, along with myself and some other analysts with Hxro Labs. And we're just shooting the shit all the time, chatting, talking charts, throwing up some memes, some GIFs. It's a good time. And we'll be back on Wednesday at 4 p.m. We're going to have another analyst named Nick. So I'm going to be joined here with Nick and myself, and we'll be here to talk markets and basically do the same thing, but with the power of Nick, who's a wonderful analyst, great guy, and I work with him there at Hxro Labs. So very happy to have him on the show on Wednesday. Other than that, for everyone who came out, thank you. Have a wonderful evening, and always play from a position of strength.